Slavic people are known to be a frugal and resourceful people, but don't get that twisted because they love the feeling of luxury and a comfortable lifestyle. Growing up Slavic, I found out that there are tips, tricks, and techniques that the Slavic people utilize every single day to be resourceful, but also to live a life of luxury. I want to share with you guys the exact tools, tips, and tricks that the Slavic people utilize to save thousands of dollars, but still live very comfortably. The very first hack that I feel like Slavic people do so well, and I've learned from my mom and grandma, is to take cheap cuts of meat and to turn them into something absolutely delicious. Oftentimes in Slavic cooking, the most delicious meals are the ones that cost the least to make. So the ability to utilize cheap cuts of meat like a chuck roast, a pork shoulder, a pork tenderloin, and making delicious kebabs and stews and just delicious hearty dishes not only saves you lots of money on groceries, but you also have the feeling of living like kings because you're not depriving yourself of delicious meals. You're just being resourceful and making those cheap cuts taste absolutely delicious. And the best way you can learn how to do that is to utilize some of my favorite Slavic cooking blogs like Natasha's Kitchen, Valentina's Corner, Mom's Dish. They do a really great job conveying how to utilize Slavic cooking, how to use those cheaper cuts of meat into something so beautiful. With delicious dishes like that, you'll never even realize that you are buying cheaper cuts of meat and you're going to save hundreds. The next habit that Slavic people utilize to save thousands of dollars is they will literally make a garden anywhere and they will try to grow as much of their own food as possible. They will utilize a bucket, a backyard, a balcony. They will utilize any square inch of space to make a home garden to grow things like herbs, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, anything. If there is an inch of space of dirt outside or on your balcony, they're going to utilize it and they are going to grow something at home. And on the topic of growing things, they're also going to pickle absolutely everything. We're talking about watermelon, corn, pickles, tomatoes, zucchini. If you were to take a trip down to any Slavic person's home right now, whether their basement, their pantry, you're going to see canned goods. The next habit that Slavic people utilize to save a ton of money is to use glass, and any container you can find can be repurposed. You see a sour cream container? No, that's actually a soup Tupperware. You see a cookie tin? That's actually where we're going to hold the needle and the thread. You see a nice looking jar that was used for salsa? Well, now it's going to hold some kind of dried herb. Everything has a second, third, and sometimes fourth use, and nothing is going to get thrown away. All right, the next habit actually has saved probably thousands and thousands of dollars to our personal family, and that's really never hiring absolutely anyone to do anything that you know how to do yourself or you can learn online. So things like oil changes, any kind of car maintenance, any kind of basic construction that can be done at home or you can learn how to do it on YouTube. They don't ever hire anybody, they simply do it themselves. One of their mottos is, why hire somebody and spend thousands of dollars when you can simply learn how to do it yourself and spend thousands of hours doing it, but hey, save a ton of money. This next Slavic hack that has saved myself personally hundreds, probably thousands of dollars is to ditch designer and to go to places like TJ Maxx, Target, Home Goods, Ross. There's actually an acronym for Ross that my friend taught me, which is a Russian outlet superstore, and I have never heard truer words. Slavic people will take the time to go maybe spend a little bit extra time digging through things through racks at Ross, at discount stores, because they're going to find those gems, but they're going to spend a fraction of the cost. They're always going to be put together, they're going to be clean, they're going to have nice clothing, but they're going to pay a fraction of the cost for them. Honestly, discount stores are such a huge secret for the Slavic people, whether it's a grocery discount store, a clothing discount store, a tools discount store, or secondhand Goodwill thrift stores. They are literally like a cheat code to all of the Slavic people. Another Slavic habit that I actually implement in my own home is to have separate church clothes or nicer clothes from your home clothes. So my kids will typically have even some of their like nicer school clothes will be separate from their play clothing. And this is simply to extend the life of clothing that is a little bit more expensive, a little bit nicer. If it's nicer clothing, there's no reason they need to be riding their bikes or playing in the dirt in them. So we do have different categories of like church and outing clothes from their home clothes and play clothes and even some school clothing. They're kept looking nicer longer, and this not only helps you save a ton of money, but it also helps you and your family present yourself nicer when you're going out somewhere. Okay, I don't abide by every single Slavic rule and tradition, but one of the things that I really appreciate about the Slavic culture is the concept of community borrowing. So instead of going going to the store or renting some kind of tool or equipment, or maybe you need a truck for the weekend to do some kind of project around the house, instead of going and renting that, there's this concept of community borrowing. So whether you're in a church community chat, whether you reach out to a family member or friend, but you go ahead and you ask first if anybody has that tool first, whether it's an excavator, a truck, or some kind of little tool to do plumbing. People typically will ask someone that they know first before going out and spending any money on that. And that will typically save people so much money. And it also tends to build a stronger community bond because you're really building relationships with your neighbors, your community, and your friends. Okay, this next, I'm gonna call it a cheat code, a hack, but this is something I feel like the American community has never understood, how immigrants or people who weren't born in the States, they see them driving really nice cars. And I'm going to tell you something that probably most of you know, but Slavic people almost never buy anything new from the dealer. Most of their cars, especially the really nice ones that you see, all have a salvage title and were purchased from an auction and were hit or damaged, and then somebody took the time, repaired the damage, and got themselves a really nice car for a really cheap price. So while you may see someone who is Slavic maybe, and all of a sudden they have a really nice looking BMW, a Mercedes, whatever car it may be, and you think that they went down to the local dealer and drove that car off the lot, they could never, because they will almost never buy anything brand new. They will take the time to research, to go onto Facebook Marketplace, car dealership auction, some kind of little resource here and there, but they're going to find a hidden gem that they know that they can spend the time on to fix, and they're going to pay a fraction of the price. And they also don't care the fact that that title is salvaged, because they know that they're going to take the time to fix it up for their family, for themselves, and they're going to have a nice luxurious car that they can drive around for themselves at a fraction of the price. Slavic people will buy secondhand as much as possible because they will see the potential in everything. Whether it's at a Goodwill, a thrift store, Facebook Marketplace, they will find something that they need or want, and they will find it, maybe it's a little beat up, maybe it needs a little bit of fixing up, but they can see the potential in it, and they're going to spend the time on fixing that item up to work for their family, and they're going to save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. All right, the next one is pretty simple. This is probably a universal thing, but every kid growing up in a Slavic household knew that when you leave the room, you turn off the lights. When you leave the house, you turn down the temperature. If you're hot in the summertime, open a window in the morning time to cool down your house. If you're cold in the wintertime, put a sweater and socks on. There were no negotiations. You always had socks on in the house because your feet needed to be warm, or you just strip down to a couple less layers. You open up your windows, let the skvozняк into the house, and let a nice, which is a breeze, and let the breeze come and cool the house. You spend as little as possible on utility. The next habit that Slavic people live by, and unfortunately this doesn't go over as well in my house as I like, but leftovers are never looked down upon. So mom would usually make a massive pot of borscht, soup, maybe some kind of stew, and that was to last 3, 4, sometimes 5 days at a time, and nobody complained about leftovers. In the case that you did have a more creative homemaker, instead of making you eat that same meal for 3 to 4 days, she would utilize leftovers and make them into something new. And if there was ever any fruit around in the house that maybe looked a little unappealing, or it had gone a couple days past its prime, it was never thrown out. Instead, it was made into a delicious drink or juice called a kompot, where you take any fruit that you may have in the fridge, in your pantry, apples, grapes, strawberries, blueberries. You toss everything into a pot of water, you add a little bit of sugar in there, and you let it boil, and it turns into the most amazing, delicious fruit drink of your life, because not only does nothing go to waste, it gets elevated into something luxurious. All right, I grew up on this next Slavic hack, and this is home remedies over any doctor's visits. I remember the days of being sick and having a cough, and instead of Robitussin or Tylenol or going to the urgent care, my mom would make a mustard patch to put on my chest to draw out the cough and help sleep. Before they go to a doctor, they will always have a home remedy, whether it's onions on your feet, breathing in some kind of breathing treatment before going to bed, a mustard patch on your chest, vinegar in your socks, whatever the illness, there's probably a Slavic remedy for it. The next thing is probably more so for the older generation, but there are quite a few young Slavic people who still utilize it to this day, and that's a lot of foraging, fishing, and hunting. If you can get it for free in the wild, the Slavic people are going to be there. So whether you are fishing, whether you are foraging for berries and mushrooms, which by the way, a Slavic person will never tell you the location of any berries or mushrooms that they find, so don't even ask. It's like just don't even ask. But getting things naturally out in the wild is like in the blood of the Slavic people. So if they can go out, not only are they getting their exercise in, which is super healthy, they're also able to find those items that are probably not even available at grocery stores. And if they are available at specialty grocery stores, they cost an absorbent amount of money. So if they can forage for them for free or very cheaply, they're going to do that. Okay, I have many more Slavic habits that save thousands of dollars, but the last one that I'm going to mention for today is that Slavic people are really good at taking advantage of deals, such as timeshares. If they have to sit through a 2-hour timeshare presentation to get a free vacation, you bet they're going to do that. If they have to open up a credit card to get a certain amount of travel points, they're going to do that. Slavic people love to live luxuriously and comfortably, but they don't want to spend all of that money. So if they can find clever little deals here and there, whether it's a clearance sale, some kind of promotion or deal going on, they're going to hop on it quick. If you guys enjoyed these, let me know in the description down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one.